Today is yoga for stress. So today is a stay on the mat class, no on your feet poses. Really looking for finding places of tension in the body, trying to reduce and let go of tension. I'm going to work the legs a little. If you have a tight lower back or back of the legs, it might be handy to have a chair available to put your feet up on. If not, you can just hold legs up and we're going to work with the feet. So grab a chair if you need one and bring yourself down onto your back. So if you bring yourself down onto your back, maybe bringing your feet onto the chair to begin with. So just find a place where you can have your feet comfortably on the chair and land on the mat. So start to really let your hips land on the mat. Let your head land on the mat, your shoulders land on the mat. Start to really ground and land. So, though we move and we breathe and we get in touch with the physical body, some of the most important parts of the practice are when we are still. And sometimes the hardest are when we are still. So starting to land and really notice what happens when you still yourself, when you stop moving. Notice what happens to your breath. Notice what happens to your mind. And let go of the concept of having right or wrong answers, having this concept of what the mind is supposed to be, what the emotions are supposed to be. And just begin to notice what is present. Laying on the mat. Notice what you feel. Notice what you feel in your physical body. Notice what you feel in your emotions. Notice your breath. And then notice the thoughts, notice the mind. Notice perhaps today is one of those days where the mind is swirling, or one of those days where the mind seems to be a little slower, a little more calm. And bring your hands together, rub your hands together, make them nice and warm. And bring them just underneath the rib cage so you can feel the muscles of the breath. And start to imagine the warmth of your hands is softening this space. Perhaps beginning to lengthen your breath. Soften your breath. And then we'll begin to add a little intention to our breath. So we're going to breathe in fully. Add a gentle pause. Breathe out fully and then add another gentle pause. And if it helps you to stay focused on your breath, you can say to yourself, I am breathing in, gentle pause, and very slowly breathing out, gentle pause. Trying to bring all of your intention and awareness to the breath without forcing it. So just gentle intention, filling up the lungs, trying to locate those corners and edges of the lungs that perhaps you haven't been utilizing. Finding the top, the bottom, the middle of the lungs. Filling it up completely. And then emptying the lungs completely. And exploring gentle pauses in between. Taking note of what it feels like to empty the body of air and pause. And taking note of what it feels like to fill the body with air and pause. And then let your hands land, palms up on the ground, wherever your shoulders are most comfortable. And let all thoughts of your breath fade away and just notice what is present. Notice perhaps a change in your state of mind or state of emotion. Maybe if you weren't breathing fully, maybe you notice some tingling, some energy in the body. Checking in, getting to know what is present. And then as if scanning each and every muscle in the body one by one, start at the toes and check in on how the muscles are. Notice the muscles of the feet, the legs, the back. Notice around the low back. Notice across the hips. Notice around the muscles of the breathing space and around the lungs and rib cage. Notice the muscles of the shoulders. Maybe your shoulders are pulling up off the ground. Notice the muscles of the hands, arms, neck, and face. Notice where the tongue is in the mouth. Notice around the eyes. Notice the space at the top of the spine and the base of the skull. And then we're just going to gently begin to move with our breath. So bring the arms, fingertips to the ceiling, lifting the arms up. We're going to inhale as we open the arms wide, and exhale as we squeeze the arms back in together. Inhale, open. Exhale, squeeze. If you wish to continue the little gentle pausing breath, go ahead and add your gentle pauses. Otherwise, just move and breathe at whatever pace you feel is working for you right now. Maybe you feel you need to speed up your breath to bring in a little more energy. Maybe you feel like you need to slow it down, slow, to get rid of some excess energy. Slow things down. Make this your practice. Get to know what your body needs. Get to know that your state is in constant change. What you need today may not be what you need tomorrow. Become playful, exploring each time something different. Bring the hands back up towards the ceiling. Check in on the hips and the low back. Make sure you're not pulling any tension into this space. And we're going to push one hand up at a time. So bring the hand so you're pushing with the palm of the hand. Push one hand up at a time towards the ceiling, starting to activate shoulders and arms. So watch for tension in the neck here. Sometimes if we have tight shoulders, maybe there's pulling all the way up into the neck. So slow it down. Find the muscles, pushing and pulling. So pushing up to the ceiling and then pulling the shoulder back down to the ground. Pushing up and pulling down. Exploring the muscles of the shoulders. Moving with the breath. And then bring the hands down about halfway towards the hips, palms up. So land the shoulders onto the ground. And we're going to press the backs of the hands into the ground. So press the backs of the hands into the ground and notice which muscles fire up. See if you can find the front of the chest. Press, 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 press. Try to make sure the low back remains soft. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, let go of the muscles of the shoulders and arms. Let everything melt into the ground. Flip the palms so the palms are palm down. Press the palms of the hands into the ground. Notice which muscles fire up. Notice that it's slightly different with the hands in a different shape. Press, find some strength across the arms and shoulders. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, suddenly release all muscles. And then see if you can melt your shoulders a little more into the ground. Bringing the back of the head into the ground, chin to the ceiling. So try to make sure you have that nice natural curve of your neck. Chin to the ceiling. We're going to press a little bit the back of the head into the ground. Press and see if you can find some muscles of the neck. So we're going to fire them up and find them, but not strain them. So find the muscles of the neck. Press the head into the ground, letting the shoulders be melted into the ground, arms soft. And then with that press, slowly take the chin over to the right shoulder, keeping a little tiny press, seeing which muscles in your neck you can find. Breathe and fire up the muscles. Slowly take the chin all the way back through center with a tiny press of the head into the ground, and then take your chin over to the other shoulder. Notice what you feel present in your muscles of your neck. Little tiny press. Shoulders soft. Chest soft. Back soft. And then back to neutral, chin to the ceiling. Release the muscles. Soften everything. Take the chin to the ceiling. Press the back of the head back into the ground just a little bit. Just enough to find the muscles in the neck. And then send the chin more to the ceiling. So push the chin to the ceiling. See if you can find the muscles around the jaw, around, underneath and front of the neck and chin. As well as a little press in the back of the head, finding the muscles at the back of the neck. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, suddenly melt. And then take a slow, soft side sway of the head. See if you feel any tension in the neck. Notice any places where they're still gripping. And then take the chin all the way over to the right shoulder. Take the right hand and place it on the left temple. Soft pressure. So we're going to have a little soft pressure here. Just feeling our hand on our head on our hand. Press the head into the ground a little bit. So not with your hand, but with your head. Press your head. And then press the head into the hand without letting anything move. So find different places of the muscles of the neck. Find. Do not strain, just a little activation of these muscles. Find them. Take a deep inhale, and with the exhale, suddenly release all muscles and bring the hand back down to the ground. Slowly bring the chin all the way over to the left shoulder. Bring the right hand to the right temple. Find a little press of the head into the ground, not with the hand. Find some muscles. And then find a little press of the head into the hand. Find some muscles. So just fire up the muscles enough to feel them, not to strain them. Little tiny activation. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, suddenly release all muscles. Let the hand come back to the ground, and your chin come back to neutral. Now take a little side sway with the chin, and notice what is present. We'll move on to the feet and legs. So bringing your heels onto the ground, onto the chair, or just heels up so you can look at your feet if you don't have a chair. Make sure your hips are nice and soft, your back is nice and soft, there's no strain. And we're going to work through the muscles of the feet. So bring the toes tight towards the shins, pull the toes towards the shins, fire up the muscles of the feet and shins, and then press the toes away, nice and slow. Pull back and press away. Trying to keep this muscular action from below the knee. So keep an eye out for any bigger muscles like the glutes, the backs of the thighs, or the low back starting to activate. So really keeping an eye, bringing your feet, bringing the muscles of the feet, feeling the muscles of the lower legs and feet. Sorry, I forgot my clock. And then bring the toes towards the shins. Pull the muscles of the feet tight. And then turn the toes in towards each other. So again, movement coming from below the knees. Everything else soft. Pull the muscles of the feet in towards each other. Toes in, pigeon-toed. And then slowly turn the feet out, still keeping the feet active, pulling the toes towards the shins. Notice which seems harder. Notice left and right sides, maybe they're not even. Feel the muscles in the front of the shins. And then keeping the toes pointed out, push the toes away. So pushing the toes, active feet. Still trying to keep soft back. And then slowly, keeping the toes pointed, turn the toes in towards each other again, trying to keep all the movement from below the knee. And then soften the feet. Give a little wiggle, loosen the feet, loosen the legs. Left leg can stay on the chair or the ground with the knee up. We're going to get the right leg up. We're going to look at the right leg, maybe even hold on to the right thigh. We're going to take slow circles with the right foot. So really slow is if you're trying to feel every point your foot can, every angle your foot can move in. All movement from the below the ankle. Maybe noticing some creaks and groans. Maybe noticing points where your muscles seem to shake and be weak. And then reverse the circle. Looking at your foot, having a mind-body connection, really. Landing in the foot, nothing else present right now. We're looking at our foot, we're experiencing our foot, the muscles of our foot. And then let that go and switch legs. So left leg holding, right leg loose, and taking a circle with the left ankle. through the left foot, feeling all of the muscles in the left foot. Slow circle, so we're not rolling around in the joint. We're trying to find the muscles of the foot. Have a mind-body connection. Reverse your circles. And then let that go. And we're going to work from the knee down. So right leg, hold on to the thigh. Only moving from the knee down. So try and keep the thigh loose. You're going to take a circle with the lower leg. So find the muscles of the lower leg. Look at it. Feel it. Notice how much the thigh wants to do the work and try and keep the movement from below the knee. Notice points where it seems a little harder. And then reverse your circle. Nice and slow, really feeling the muscles. Really feeling any point that it feels like it's harder to move the leg. And then let that go. Move on to the left leg. Nice slow circle below the knee. Remembering nice, slow, soft breath, intentional breath, filling up the lungs. Reverse your circle and fully emptying the lungs. Notice if the mind starts to drift with this slow and gentle class. And rather than being frustrated, noticing when it flies away and trying to return to that muscular action and have a mind-body connection. Bring the knee in, take the heel of the left hand and rub it on the shin. And then switch sides, bring the right knee in, heel of the right hand across the shin. Bring a little circulation here, little circles. Leaving a left leg down on the floor, knee up. Take right leg up to the ceiling. So keeping an eye on our hips. We want this movement to come from the leg, not the glutes, not muscles of the stomach, and not the back. I'm going to fire up the leg, so find the muscles of the leg, and take a circle. So if your back is doing all the work, make your circle smaller. If your hip is moving too much on the ground, make your circle smaller. You're going to hold your hips if your hips are particularly moving around on the ground to remind yourself to make this movement entirely in the leg and not in the back. Slow circle is if you're trying to find all the ways the leg can move within the hip joint. Not by rolling the leg around, but by finding the muscles that make this movement happen. And then reverse your circle. Slow breath. Bring the right leg down. Take a little side sway of the hips. Make sure the low back is soft. Left leg to the ceiling. Fire up the left leg. Find the muscles of the left leg. Whole leg engaged. Muscles of the foot engaged. Everything engaged. Slow circles. Start small and then make your circle bigger as you start to feel more comfortable in the leg. Keeping your hips grounded. Letting go of the idea of competition with yourself. Maybe you have flexibility goals. Letting go of those today and just locating tension and stress. Noticing your body. noticing places that feel tight or weak or grippy. And then bring the left leg down to the ground, knees up. Take a side sway of the hips. Feet down on the ground. We're going to move and breathe. So taking your feet a comfortable distance away from the glutes. We're going to leave the rib cage down on the ground, trying not to force the chin down to the chest or the back of the neck to the ground. Nice natural curve of the neck, letting our shoulders melt onto the ground. Feet a comfortable distance from the hips. Feet also comfortable for the knees. So wherever that is for your knees, take a little exploration of where your knees are most comfortable. We're going to press into the heels, fire up the back of the legs and the glutes, and inhale, lift the hips, exhale, lower. So we want to find all the muscles in the backs of the legs and the glutes, but also pulling the hips with the muscles of the lower stomach. Inhale, lift, and exhale, lower. Nice and slow. Keeping muscle tension, keeping muscle activation as we lift as well as we lower. So not just dropping the hips, slowing the movement. Lower the hips and take a little side sway with the knees. Then bring the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a little hug. You can rock it or keep it still. And then roll on over to a side and come on up to a tabletop position. We're going to move and breathe in our tabletop. Nice and slow and gentle, and maybe even adding in our gentle pauses. So inhaling forward, exhaling, sending the hips back towards a child's pose. Inhale forward and exhale back. And bring it up to a tabletop position. Take your hands nice and wide so there's no tension in the wrists. So you have a base, but your wrists are comfortable. Make lots of space for the wrists, and if your wrists are still tight, bring a little bend into the arms and take some more of the tension into the chest, pulling yourself up out of the ground. We're going to work through lower back first. So little cat-cow movement, only very tiny and slow. So we're thinking about moving through how our back can move in the low back, but releasing the low back. So we're going to inhale as we lower the low back. Exhale as we pull the low back. So the movement is right in between hips and low and mid back. Drop the belly, inhale. Exhale, pull through the low back. So teeny tiny movement. And as you start to get the hang of it, maybe pressing down. So imagine you're pressing down through the knees and pulling the knees apart, starting to activate the glutes and the legs. Resist the desire to make this movement bigger and pull it up and through the shoulders. Hold your shoulders and chest steady and take it into the lower back, really feeling what is present in the lower back. And we're activating our muscles. We're using our muscles here. We're not just sinking into the joints and flopping around. We're really trying to find muscles in the lower back. And then let that go. Take a little reset. We're going to work through the muscles of the glutes. So make sure you're comfortable in your arms and shoulders. You can hold yourselves up. If your wrists are super sensitive, you can come onto your blocks and rest on your forearms. And if you're doing this either way, chest should be a little active so we're not just hanging out in joints. We're really protecting ourselves with a little muscle activation. So we're going to bring the left knee to a hover. So bring it to a hover, lift it up. Find the muscles of the leg. So everything's strong and active. Bring the left knee out to the left. Lift the heel a little more. So left knee comes out to the left without lifting and moving through the back and the hips. So lift and hover, bring it to the left, hover this left leg. Pull the heel a little more up to the ceiling, strong and active in the chest. And then little pulses, teeny pulses of the knee up to the ceiling. Strong, active leg. And then hold it up as high as you can, strong. Little pulses of the knee towards the shoulder. It's a teeny, teeny, teeny movement, and we're trying to find the muscles that make this movement happen. Fire up the right glute. Press down through the right leg. Everything strong and active. And then lower the left knee down. Take the left leg long, place the toes down, and press through the heel. And you can take this static or you can take this in little pulses. Finding the back of the leg. Then untuck the toes, place the top of the foot down and pull as if you're trying to pull the foot towards you. Trying to pull it towards the navel without letting it move. Find the front of the leg. And then lower the left knee, take a little reset. And take some circles with the arms. So right arm takes the weight, strong in the right arm, strong in the chest. Left arm takes a long, slow circle. Find your breath. Return the left arm down, weight into the left arm, lift up into the chest. Right arm takes some long, slow circles. Bring it back to tabletop. Set up your base nice and strong in the chest. Right knee comes to a hover this time. Pull the right knee out to the right. Pull the right ankle up to the ceiling. Strong and active leg. Really, really, really strong. And then little pulses of the knee to the ceiling. Little tiny pulses. And then holding the knee up, little pulses of the knee towards the right shoulder. Teeny movement. Pull the knee to the shoulder, push the heel away. So little teeny movement, active leg. And then bring the right knee down, right leg long, press through the heel. So again, pulses or static. Move and breathe. Feel the back of the leg. Or hold it. Nice, static, slow stretch. And then untuck the toes. Place the top of the foot down on the right foot. Land it and then feel like you're trying to pull the foot towards your navel without letting it move. Open up the front of the leg. Mindful of tension in the neck. Lower the right knee down and get pretty comfortable in your base, in your legs. Maybe you can even put a blanket in underneath the knees. We're going to work through the hands a little bit. So sink in the hips a little bit closer towards the heels. We're going to take the hands out far from the shoulders. We're going to slowly peel through the hands. So slowly peeling one hand up off the ground, leaving the fingers down at a time. Active hands. So our arms are active, muscles are active. Peel palm of the hand up, leaving the fingers down, nice and slow. Long, slow breath. And then maybe peeling up onto the fingertips of the left hand. Take a little weight, feel the hand. So try not to lock into the joints. Have active muscles in the fingers. And then switch sides, come on over to the right side. Take a little weight on the fingertips. Strengthening fingers, so feel like you're pulling the fingers back in towards center without letting them move. Put the right hand back down, make a fist with the left, place it down on the top two knuckles, and take a little weight. So changing the shape of your wrist, so rather than pushing into the wrist, put some weight on the wrist and pull up. So find the muscles of the wrist all the way up the arm into the chest. And release that. Switch sides. So top two knuckles of right hand. Place them on the ground first. Get comfortable and then pull up from the wrist. Place the right hand down. This time the left fingertips turn towards the knee. Closer to the knee is going to be easier on the wrist. A little bit further away, you're going to be opening up the wrist a little more. So depending where you hold your tension in your hand, find the place where you find a little opening. And if you feel strong here, you can start to adjust and take a little weight onto the left hand in this position. And then switch sides. Right fingertips come towards the knee. Find the place where you can find opening in the wrist, in the back of the wrist. Take a little weight. And slowly turn the hand around. Come on up to a seated position. Grab any props that you need to be comfortably seated for a little bit. You can sit on the chair. It's just finding a place that you can comfortably hold the seat for a little bit. Getting nice and tall in the spine. So rather than forcing a straight spine, from drawing the shoulders back, drawing the chin back, try and find the natural curves of your spine. And then imagine getting a little longer, a little lighter from the crown of the head. And then bring your hands to prayer. Interlace your fingers and pull the hands apart. So feeling the muscles of the fingers. And then push the palms away. If this is too much, just push palms away, not interlaced. Push palms away. And then interlacing the fingers and holding them interlaced. So clasping the fingers, push the hands away from you. So not the back active, only across arms and shoulders and chest. So push as if you're pushing the shoulders out and away as far as you can, back soft. And then we're going to pull the right shoulder back into the socket and down. So you should find some muscles in underneath the armpit. Pull back and down, push up, and pull back and down. So take a little tiny movement. Notice which other muscles are going to start to do the work for you. So keeping on that low back, keeping on the muscles of the neck. Try and keep this movement right in all the muscles of the shoulder. Take your hands out. Switch the interlacing. So the uncomfortable way, other pinky finger is on the bottom. Push the arms out as if you're trying to push the arms out of the shoulders. And then pull the left shoulder back and then down. Push away and then back and then down. Find the muscles in underneath the armpit. Back and down. Small, tiny, tiny, tiny movement. And then bring the hands down. Take a little soft sway of the shoulders. Notice any tension in the neck. And we're going to take a really slow circle with the head. So, trying to find the muscles of the neck that make the head move in all the directions it moves in and engage them. So we're not just rolling around on the spine. We're trying to find the muscles that help us move and help protect our spine. So bring the chin down towards the chest. Feel the muscles of the back of the neck. And then take the head in the slowest circle you can possibly find, trying to find all the muscles of the neck. And when you get back, don't drop the head on the spine, but try to find the muscles in the back that hold the skull up off the back of the spine. Bring the chin back to neutral and slowly take it back the other way. And bring the chin back to neutral. If you have a block, grab a block. If you don't, just bring your hands out and imagine you're grabbing a block and squeezing it in. If you have the block, they don't have to be shoulder height, just in between the block. Block in between the hands, arms engaged as if they're pushing the block, and front of the chest engaged. And we're just going to see if we can release some of the muscles of the neck and shoulders. So squeeze and engage. Get really long, soften the low back, and then take the chin down towards the chest. Slowly take the chin up to the ceiling. Push chin to the ceiling, not dropping the skull. Slowly back to neutral, keeping the block engaged, arms engaged. Take the right ear to right shoulder, squeezing the block. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Slowly bring it back to neutral, left ear to left shoulder. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Back to neutral, turn the chin to the right shoulder, squeezing. Back to neutral, turn the chin to the left shoulder. Back to neutral. Release your block if you have it. Take a little wiggle of the shoulders. Notice what is present. And then we're going to return to that chin, the head circle, noticing if anything is different in the gripping in the neck. So bring the chin down towards the chest. Feel the muscles of the back and neck first. And then take the head in a slow circle. Trying to keep shoulders loose. And then back in the other direction. and head back to neutral. Notice if anything feels a little softer, a little less tense, and then slowly make your way back down to the ground. And if you're going to use the chair for your resting pose, go ahead and get your hips nice and close to your chair. And come on down to your back. Try, if you're going to use the chair for your resting pose, there's lots of props you can use. So if you have your legs up on the chair and your knees tend to flop open, maybe putting a blanket in between your foot and the back of the chair or the edge of the chair, just giving your leg the idea that it has something to lean against so that your knees don't flop open, you're not in the maximum stretch of your hip. So like this rather than like this. So bringing something in between the edge of the chair and your legs so your knees have something to rest against. When you land on the ground like this, watch for your low back. So watch for overly pressing your low back down into the ground and forcing out that curve of your low back. So let your hips land on the ground and take a little shuffle, trying to loosen and soften anything in the low back because we're going into resting pose, not a stretch. So we don't want anything to be gripping around the low back and around the hips. Try to bring the shoulders into the ground, and if you notice that your shoulder is super pulling up, think about placing a little towel underneath the shoulder so it knows where the ground is. So we're not stretching the muscles of the chest, but we're telling the shoulder where the ground is so that the muscles of the chest can begin to release the tension and just kind of soften their burden. And sometimes can be very effective in letting the shoulder drop to the ground. In fact, as you go, you may need to adjust so that there's less blanket under the shoulder because the muscles are releasing and you have more space. So landing on the ground, finding comfort as much as possible. Maybe grab a blanket, softening in. We're going to return to how we started. So returning to grounding, returning to releasing into the ground and softening. Centering, grounding, there's lots of terms for almost everything we do because there's so many translations and variations. So we begin our practice by softening, grounding, and landing in our practice, landing in present moment. And then at the end of practice, the pose at the end is designed to not only ground us, but also release as much tension from the body as possible. From the body, mind, the whole body, not just the physical body. So traditionally, it was taken in a corpse pose to help us understand that we're supposed to get as close to being a corpse as possible. Release all the tension of our day-to-day worries in our muscles, in our mind, in our breath, in our energetic body. Rest and digest. So starting to think about that, starting to think about releasing the tension in your feet, releasing the tension in your legs, releasing as much tension as possible around the hips and glutes. So think about this space. This space is our rest and digest or our fight and flight space. So if we're not ready to rest and digest, our muscles are all fired up, ready to flee. And that hinders our digestion, it increases tension in the body, and we can become so tight in this space and so stuck in fight or flight, we haven't even noticed that it's present. So this becomes normal for our body to hold tension in this space. So take particular time thinking about the muscles of the glutes and the thighs and the hips. Notice if you feel like you're ready to leap up and ready to run away. see if you can soften more in this space. And maybe you think about drawing your breath in and sending it intentionally to all of these muscles, as if bringing in fresh, cleansing, softening energy and sending it to your muscles, your thighs, your glutes, your stomach. And if the mind is particularly gripping and really not letting you soften into the ground, maybe even taking a few moments to say to yourself, right here in this moment, all of my needs are met. Maybe you say it a couple of times so you feel like your whole body is listening and you can really connect to softening, releasing. Maybe some gurgles start to happen in your stomach as your digestion starts to turn on and does what it's supposed to do when you rest. Maybe you think of cleansing energy moving across your muscles of digestion, all the way around in your stomach, a soft swirling, cleansing energy across the stomach. You can make it a visual ball of energy. You can give it a color, you can give it a temperature so that you can imagine feeling it, sweeping, a softening. As you're melting more and more into the ground, perhaps bringing a visual to your mind. So imagine you're laying in your favorite place in nature. It can be a beachside, a forest, a meadow, someplace you feel very connected to nature. And you're going to imagine painting in the details around you as much as you possibly can, so it really feels like you're right there in that spot. Perhaps you can begin to imagine this sunlight melting down onto your skin, touching and warming your skin. Perhaps you can imagine the smells of this place. And as you breathe and paint in the details of this scene, more and more feel connected to nature, to this beautiful place. As if you, as a one person, a one being, is slowly melting into this scene, becoming one with the nature around you. As if you and the scene are becoming one. If you were a painting, you would be barely visible. Allowing yourself to melt in to the vibration of the nature around you. So still and so soft that if a bird were to fly in next to you, it would calmly eat and play, barely noticing your presence. And every time the mind comes in and distracts you from your beautiful scene in nature, gently paint in the details again in your mind. From scratch, start over, as if painting a brand new painting. More and more vividly paint in the details of your scene in nature. becoming less and less concerned and noticing of your own physical presence, as if you're slowly becoming an energy and just drifting away into this beautiful scene. No longer just your thoughts, no longer just this physical body, no longer just your emotions, but a soft energy floating among a beautiful scene in nature. If you have the time to spend resting, releasing, digesting, softening into the ground, and keeping and returning over and over again to your vision with patience, with kindness, of whenever the mind drags you away or distractions pull you away. Please take as much time as you need. If you need to be finished up at the 60-minute mark, very slowly begin to land on the ground in the room. Start to notice where you are by feeling your body on the ground. Start to bring some wiggles to the fingers and the toes. And if your feet are up on the chair, take a moment to take the palms of your hands onto your legs and bring a little circulation to your legs before bringing your knees into your chest. So bring a little circulation to the legs. Draw the knees slowly into the chest. Try not to wake fully yet. Slowly into the chest and curl up into a ball on a fetal position, whatever side is calling to you. Taking your time to settle in. Land in the room. Perhaps taking a few more moments to paint in your scene in nature, because the more vividly we paint it in, and the more often we return to it, the more powerful it becomes. So remembering this beautiful place, painting it in as if sealing in the details in your mind for later. And then slowly making your way up to a seated position, bringing your hands to prayer at heart space. Taking a second to really think about bringing your hands to meet in front of your heart. This gesture of bringing your left and right sides to meet in front of your heart, as if accepting yourself as whole and complete, precisely as you are. Thinking about being all of the parts of yourself, the parts you've judged negative, the parts you've judged positive. It's just being parts of yourself. Thinking about the physical body, the mental body, the emotional layer, the energetic layer, the intuition, and the spiritual connection as all being a complicated part of a whole system. as being more than just your thoughts, more than just your feelings, more than just that little voice inside of you, and more than just your physical self. A whole and complete, complicated being. May we all know a little love and kindness throughout our day. Thank you so much for joining me.